We were promised a game with 4 queens, and that's what we're going to see. Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 136 in the series Viewers Games. If you would like your game to be analyzed on Chess to Impress, you can send it to me by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. It is the turn of Meshal. My name is Meshal. I am just under 1800 FIDE rated, been playing chess for 5 years now and recently got married in Turkey, but I am from Kuwait. Maybe not the best year to get married, but so far things are doing well. As for chess, well, I tend to think of myself as more of a positional and endgame player. However, this game was a bit rare for me, with tactical chances for all sides. It was a crazy 4-queen game, says Meshal. And Meshal was black in this game, so we're going to look at the game from the black side. It was played on Lichess under the classical time control of 15 minutes for the whole game, plus a 16 seconds increment per move. White went under the name of Enmer777, had a rating of 1963, and black was Seeker1, that is Meshal, with a rating of 1808, so he was outrated by over 150 points. White played e4 and Meshal played the French. d4, d5, and now the main moves here are knight c3 or knight d2 or e5 or the exchange French with e takes d5. The fifth most popular option was played by White, bishop d3. D takes, bishop takes, and here knight f6 is the main move, attacking the bishop, but bishop e7 was played by Meshal, a very rare move, but not a bad one. And we're on move 5, and White already makes a big mistake. Queen g4, double question mark. Yes, attacking the pawn on g7, but there is a tactical problem with that move. Do you see it? Yes, of course, there is f7, f5. Forking queen and bishop, and it turns out that black wins a piece. You can take on g7, counter-attacking the unprotected rook in the corner, but there is the very nice move bishop f6, attacking the queen, protecting the rook. The knight is also protected, and this bishop is still hanging. So after you save the queen, f takes e4, black has won a piece. So queen g4 is a really bad move, and it was only move 5. Unfortunately, Meshal did not see it. He did not expect such a chance at such an early stage of the game, and he played knight f6. Attacking both queen and bishop. Queen takes g7 is another move that deserves a double question mark, and this one is even more obvious. The rook is hanging in the corner, so you have to play rook g8, counter-attacking the queen. The queen really only has one square on h6, and that bishop is hanging on e4. Again, black has won a piece. But Meshal went for winning the pawn on d4 instead. Queen takes d4. And that move also deserves a question mark, because you rather win a piece than a pawn. And now look at this one. White should play something like bishop f3, saving his bishop, keeping the g2 pawn protected. But he played bishop e3 instead. We call this mutual chess blindness. Both players miss that bishop e4 is just en prise. And maybe Meshal saw it now, but he has an equally strong move, which he played queen takes b2. As good as taking the bishop on e4, because White can now not save his rook on a1. Knight e2, and there goes the rook. After 9 moves, Meshal is a full rook up against a player with over 150 rating points more. White has just been asleep for the opening of this game. He castled, protecting his knight on b1 that way. Knight c6 and bishop takes c6. Yes, that ruins black's pawn structure, but when you're a rook down, this is not something that you should look for. What you must do is keep as many pieces on the board as possible, complicate the position, and if possible, attack your opponent's king. Trading pieces will not help that way. Knight d2. Hitting the queen. The rook is now attacking the queen on a1. Queen takes pawn. h4 and a5 will now see a race from White's h-pawn and Black's a-pawn. We were promised a game with 4 queens, and that's what we're going to see. h5, knight g4, black wants to swap another piece of the board. It's attacking two of white's pieces. The more material is exchanged, the heavier his material plus will weigh. Queen takes pawn, rook f8, that rook was hanging on g8, knight g3, and Meshal takes on e3, swaps another piece of the board. F takes e3, and now the f file has opened up for white. Black must keep an eye on the f7 pawn, because two of white's heavy pieces are looking at f7. That's a real target for white. Meshal played a4, h6, and bishop b7. Bishop a6 is an alternative, with a tempo on the rook, followed by castling queenside to connect the rooks. But bishop b7 was played, not a bad move. Queen g7 to make room for the h-pawn, a3, h7, white has serious counterplay now, but Meshal does not worry about the h-pawn and plays queen takes c2. Meshal keeps a cool head. He must have seen that white can now win material back, but that black will still have a large advantage. Let's have a look. White can promote the h-pawn. That queen has to be taken, and then queen takes h8 check. Regains the rook that white had lost. It's check, so king d7, queen d4 check, and king c8. As said, white has got his rook back, but black still has a large advantage here. He has 3 extra pawns, a far advanced pawn on a3, and the bishop pair. So queen takes c2 is actually not a bad move. White decided not to regain the material, to regain the rook. He did not promote his pawn. He played knight d to e4, saving his knight on d2. Here, castling queenside controls the promotion square. That would have been a good move. But a2 also works, pushing the passed pawn. If white now promotes a pawn, rook takes, queen takes, king d7 is quite similar to the variation we just saw. Black still is winning. After a2, white decided not to promote, but to take on f7. It's good to try and muddy the waters, but it does not really work. There are several ways to refute this move. You can promote on a1, queen takes, rook takes check, king h2, and king takes f7, and black is a full box of pieces up. That would have been good. What Meshal played was also good. He just took the rook. And if you now promote, there is king d7 again, queen d4 check, and bishop d6, and black is totally winning. White cannot prevent black from promoting on a1. White's queen on h8 is attacked by the rook and cannot keep control of the a1 square. That's one of white's problems. After Meshal took the rook, white still did not promote. He played queen g6. The queen on g7 was attacked. And now promotion on a1 is very logical with a forced checkmate, says the engine, but c5 was played by Meshal, opening up the diagonal for the bishop on b7, giving black additional options of queen g2 checkmate in some lines. It also takes the d4 square away for the new white queen when it appears on h8. And it turns out black has time for this, even though white now queens with check. Quite remarkable. And indeed, white promoted to a queen with check. White has now 2 queens, king d7, and if you now try and stop the a-pawn with something like queen a1, then there is queen b1 check, and black wins. After king d7, white decided to play queen h2 h5. The queen on h8 was attacked by the rook on a8, and the rook was protected by the bishop. And now it was finally time for Meshal to queen, a1 queen check, and we have the 4 queen game as promised. And a crazy game it is for sure. King h2, black has 2 extra rooks in this position, the one he won on a1 and the one he won on f7. So he's still a lot of material up. Bishop takes e4, threatening checkmate with queen takes g2. And white's reply was knight f5. White keeps playing like a drunken sailor, giving up even more material without getting anything in return. Still, black has to be careful, as the 2 queens that white has are potentially extremely powerful. Bishop takes f5, queen takes f7, taking that rook off the board, but now there is a forced mate in 3. This might be a nice time for you to put the video on pause and look for your checkmating skills. Mate in 3 here. How do you do it? Queen e5 check is the first move. King has to go to the bottom rank. Rook a1 check. You have to interpose the queen and checkmate. In the game, Meshal played queen c2, c1. And it is remarkable how powerless white's queens are. White played queen f3. And now there is a mate in 2 in the position. Again, you may want to look for yourself. How does black checkmate the white king in 2 moves? It is with queen h1 check, king g3, and a nice checkmate move, queen h4. Protected by the bishop. Nice move. In the game, Meshal played rook h8 check. Also looks good. Get that rook into the attack on the king. King g3, queen e1 check, king f4. White is going to get checkmated. Rook h4 check, g4, and bishop takes g4. And now white is not in check, but his queens are still completely powerless to get anything going at the exposed black king. Again, this is quite remarkable. 2 queens are so strong together, but there is no way, there's not even a good check for white, let alone a winning attack or a perpetual or anything like that. All white can do is give away his pieces. He did that. Queen takes e7 check, king takes, queen c6, queen f6 check, king e4, and now can you find the 4 mate in 1 moves for black? There are 4 moves that checkmate the white king in 1 move. I'll show them now. Queen d4 is checkmate. Queen f5 is checkmate. The other queen can give checkmate on b1. And a very nice one, bishop e2 is checkmate. A discovered attack on the king, and the bishop takes the d3 square away. That is my favorite one. Meshal did not play any of those options. After king e4 he played bishop f3 check, which of course is also good enough. It is mate on the next move. White decided to resign here. There's only one legal move, king d3, and then there are several checkmate moves. Queen e2 c3 is one of them. Thank you, Meshal, for sending in this game. It was crazy for sure. It was spectacular for sure, but it was not very good. Looking at the time control and the rating of both players, you would hope for a higher standard. In particular, white played very poorly, tossing away material after only a handful of moves and keeping up that practice during the rest of the game. Meshal did well by picking up the pieces and never allowing white back into the game, despite allowing white a second queen. It was remarkable how powerless that pair of queens was. White never got a chance to unleash anything like a counter-attack. Thank you very much, Meshal, for sending in this game. I hope you enjoyed Meshal's adventure in this game. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel and please leave a comment. I will read them all and I will reply to them all. If you like the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.